All right. Good evening, Real Progressive Warriors of Love. I'm Geoff Ginter with Real Progressives. Just going to give people a few moments to come on the stream. In the meantime, take some time, comment, like, share, invite friends, invite colleagues, invite enemies if you have them. By all means, I'm an equal opportunity speaker. Tonight, as I said in my little opening blog, hello, there's something very particular that I want to get to tonight, as well as touching upon some old favorite subjects, because I feel the important thing is just to hit it again and again and again and again. But tonight, I'm talking about specifically the merits of the ACA versus the merits of single payer. And I've spoken to numerous people whose focus is mainly on don't let things get worse. Don't let things get worse. My God, things can get so much worse. You think they're bad right now, they can get worse. And to that I say, you're absolutely correct. Things can get worse. But we really need to start talking about a broader base of definitions. Because when you talk about things getting worse, I'm sure you're talking about the ACA going away, insurance companies being able to charge whatever they want, pre-existing conditions not being covered, and all of that is terrible to a degree. I certainly don't want pre-existing conditions to be a topic of conversation when you need to get health care. I don't think it should ever come up, except for the doctor to try to get a medical background so they can treat you better. I am not a fan of the ACA. I'm sorry, I'm not. I know that it saved many people. You will find anecdotes of people saying that it saved their lives. You will find anecdotes of people who say, I could not get health insurance prior to the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. To which I say, fantastic. You know, depending upon what we're talking about. Saving your life? Yes. Amazing. Thank God. Thank God. The fact that you're able to afford health insurance? You know, you're never going to get me to be excited about the idea that people need coverage. You're never going to get me excited over the idea that people need access to health insurance. They need to be able to have affordable health insurance. Because even those statements cover a whole host of sins. Let's take access to health care. I need access to health care. But that statement does not quantify the quality of the health care you would get access to. I've heard this said many times, and I think it's very appropriate. You know, I need access to healthcare. In the same way that, you know, fine, now I have access to healthcare. I also have access to Paul McCartney. In as much as he is alive on the planet and I'm alive on the planet, I have access to him if I wish to go about doing that. Doesn't mean I'm going to get actual access, or if I ever see him, that I'm just going to be anything more than a passing, oh, how'd you do? I'm Paul McCartney. Who are you now? I don't know. You know, there's a wide variety of definitions that go with the concept of access. So if you're going to say that I need access to health care, I say absolutely. But what I really need is health care. I don't need access to that, which we should already be saying is a right. Health care is a right. In the richest country in the world, it should be a right no matter where I go on the planet, but on the richest country in the world, you're telling me that the best you can offer me is access to that? Access? Access could mean anything, including nothing. So let's be clear. I don't want access to healthcare. I want healthcare. Guaranteed healthcare. In the richest country in the world, resource. There is no reason on God's green earth why we should be using euphemisms and metaphors like access. Do not ever try to get me excited over the idea of I need to have affordable health insurance. Affordable to who? Affordable in what sense? We've got Republicans out there saying that if you live in a place that actually has a refrigerator, that you are already living in luxury. They're saying that if you have an iPhone, that you are living in luxury. Maybe you shouldn't have that iPhone if you wanted to be able to afford the $20,000 hospital copay. That's one hell of a fucking iPhone that you have there, sir. Health insurance is no guarantee of care. Because you know, I know, everyone that has health insurance or has ever had to look for health insurance knows health insurance only covers so much. And they really don't want to cover that much in the first place. Always remember, any corporation is in it for the bottom line. They want money. They did not incorporate for the greater good. Or at the very least, if we're going to make crystal clear definitions, the greater good begins and ends at their shareholders. That's it. If you're not a shareholder, you're not part of their greater good. So it's extraordinarily important that we be very clear about what we want, about what we're willing to accept, because there are candidates out there right now that are not saying single payer. They're not even saying Medicare for all. They are not saying anything along those lines. They are still trying to make things palatable by saying affordable, affordable, affordable. When I first went onto the exchanges here in New Jersey, when the ACA first came online, I did not at that time have health insurance. I was about a month away from being able to get it offered at the job that I finally, had access to. It took a long time for that to happen, but it did finally happen. But it wasn't going to happen for about a month. And quite honestly, I wasn't really sold on the idea that it was going to happen. I'd been waiting so long that I just didn't want to dream to believe that it could happen. But it did. But while we were looking, we went on the exchanges. And you could have bought insurance for about $10. If you wanted, you could have gone on the exchanges there in New Jersey, found plans for $10, plans for $1. They covered absolutely nothing. Virtually nothing. The ones that were like at $10 or $1 barely even covered catastrophic insurance. If you got hit by a bus, you were still going to be screwed. When they say that the Affordable Care Act was a giveaway to the insurance company, they're not kidding around. The insurance companies were able to make plans that offered nothing but were really pennies out of your life. Unless you were absolutely destitute, which many people are, then you could afford one of these plans. But then again, if you're absolutely destitute, chances are you're on Medicaid. But these things covered nothing. The insurance companies knew they were never going to have to pay out a dime. But take $10, and let's say we have 1 million people that signed up for that. Well, that's $10 million free dollars for an insurance company. The ACA is not the solution. Coverage is not the solution. Access to health care is not the solution. Lowering prices is not the solution. Right now, what we're talking about, what we need is to stop the bleeding, stop the death. Now, I've said this before, I will never stop saying it. No apologies here. 45,000 people will die every year because of lack of access to health care. Remember, whatever access means. They can't access it, they die. This includes people that are found, dying of disease elsewhere outside in the world, and those that finally do either go to the ER or are brought to the ER, but it's too late. The damage is so extensive. There's just no way to save them. 45,000 people that will die needlessly because they couldn't even access the system in the first place. Now, to be fair, Some of those people are of the category that just don't want to go to the doctor. There are people in this country that are just afraid of knowing the truth. I've got a pain and it hurts, but I don't want to know. I just don't want to know. I don't want to have it confirmed that my darkest fear that has touched me to my core is actually what I'm afraid that it is. Because if I don't go to the hospital, no one has confirmed it. I could be wrong, right? It could be anything. It could go away. It hasn't gone away in years, and it's been getting worse and worse, but it could be anything, right? We do have people like that. I have people like that in my family. It's heartbreaking. Now, mercifully, the situation I'm talking about is getting better and better and better and better, but for the grace of God. But there are people out there for whom it doesn't get better. And they get hauled into the ER, or they get found in the street somewhere, found in their home somewhere, never having gone to see a doctor. Probably we're never going to save them unless we get some serious mental health issues going on, services going on. But that's a relatively small percentage. The vast majority of those 45 would go to a doctor, but they can't afford it. The people that say that no one dies because of lack of access to health care, it's called the emergency room. If you're sick, you go. But here's the problem with the emergency room, and I haven't talked about this in a while, so anyone that's new, maybe you don't know this. The emergency room is mandated to take care of you. They are mandated to stabilize you. They can't save you unless your definition of save is you live another day. They are mandated to stabilize you. You come in with something, if they can't immediately identify it, they send you home. Maybe they'll keep you overnight for observation. If they still can't find a cause easily identifiable, they'll send you home. If they do find a cause, they will stabilize you. Maybe that means admitting you to the hospital, and God knows who's picking up that bill. Now, I'll tell you who is in a little bit. But when you leave that hospital, either that night from the emergency room or the next day or 3 or 4 days later from the hospital, they have stabilized you. If you were having a heart attack, you're okay today. Maybe they put a stent in you. Maybe they put you on some blood thinners. Maybe they did all manner of things. But you can't stay in the hospital, so you've got to go now. They have stabilized you, they've sent you on your way, and they send you with instructions. Even if you don't have to pay right then, right there, because the hospital is mandated, the ER is mandated to take care of you, and someone else will pick up that bill. They are going to tell you to go to your doctor, follow up with your cardiologist, follow up with your pulmonologist, follow up with your urologist, whatever ologist it is, or even just follow up with your primary care. You're supposed to be doing that, but if you can't come up with the money, because the private doctor's office is not mandated to take you for free, the hospital will stabilize you, and they will expect you to follow up. And that's where the wheels fall off the wagon for those that have no insurance, that have no means of paying out of pocket. Also, whatever charity care is out there is not exactly advertised, now is it? Hospital has charity care. Various other organizations in the country are designed to be able to help people, but this is feast or famine. These organizations have to either be able to get donations, or in the case of a hospital, try to make it look like they're giving more than they are in order to be able to get their tax-exempt status as a nonprofit. But no one advertises these things. Your average person on the street has no idea that these services are available to whatever limited degree they're available in the first place. So people will leave the hospital. They'll be expected to follow up. They can't afford it. What happens? They wind up right back in the hospital. They weren't taking their medications because they couldn't afford it in the first place. Or if they could, they had to ration it. I'll take an insulin injection today because I can afford this one, but I don't know when my next availability is going to come to buy some, so I'm going to have to ration this one injection. And instead of getting my full dose today, I'll take half a dose, and I'll do the other one tomorrow, and let's hope that pans out for the best. It doesn't. Ever. So you wind up back in the hospital. Things are worse than they were before. And to the degree that they can, they will stabilize you. They will save your life. Yes, they will stabilize you. And then you're on your own again. And then you wind up back in. And it's a revolving door. And they will keep saving your life until the damage has become so extensive, they just can't anymore. And even if that bore no cost to you financially, the cost on your body, you are, after all, dead, and you didn't need to be. And all the time between the time you first got sick to the time you died, all the lost days at work if you have a job, all the days worrying about that little specter on your shoulder that says, this is the one, do something. And you have to learn to live with that. There is anguish aplenty. Physical discomfort and pain aplenty. So when a Republican gets up and says no one dies because they don't have any health insurance, they can go to the ER, tell them, from me, Geoff politely tells you, fuck you. That is a cold-hearted, cynical, elitist piece of shit way to look at the world. Because it doesn't have to be that way. You could be all manner of cold and cynical. You could be all manner of elitist. But there is more than enough to go around for everyone. You, Mr. Republican, can gorge yourself on as much as you can possibly stomach and then hoard a whole portion left. And there will still be plenty for everyone. So what you're doing makes no sense if you're talking about, I can't allow you to take money from me. There's plenty to go around. But you're hoarding it all and cutting off the faucet for everyone else. The faucet has nothing but dollars to give. And you would not only take every available dollar for yourself, but you would turn off the faucet for anyone else. People get saved at the ER. No one dies because of them. Fuck you. How dare you? How dare you look in the eyes of your constituents and say something horseshit like that? Doesn't understand a word that's coming out of his mouth, or he doesn't care. Nancy Pelosi says there will never be single payer. Why? Because we're capitalists. I'm not! You're a capitalist, Nancy Pelosi. So when we institute single payer, you could opt out. You could choose to pay your money every time you go to a hospital or see a doctor. Why? Because you're a capitalist. But we will have single payer, which you will be able to avail yourself of anytime you want to wake up and smell the reality that it's better for you, Nancy Pelosi, Dianne Feinstein, Chuck Schumer, and all the corporate Democrats and every last stinking Republican. You will benefit from a society that is not sick. You will benefit from an economy that will boom because people will have extra cash in their pockets. I am not insensitive to your desire for cash. By all means, have some. But your games are killing people. So the ER is not going to save you. Not in the long run. The ER is there for emergencies. And for the 45,000 people that die because they don't have access to it, this is not good news to say everyone should have insurance. access to insurance, because you and I now both know what insurance can mean. $1 is all you need to get insurance, and it covers nothing. $10, $20, $100, $150, $300. You could be spending up to $600 on the ACA and more and still not have enough coverage. Insurance is no guarantee of care. Insurance is no guarantee that you're not going to go bankrupt, that you're not going to lose your house, that you're not going to wind up on the street. There are no guarantees with insurance. Why? Because they want to make money. Not a single one of these organizations are in business because they care about you. They are all in business to make as much money as they possibly can. So, $45,000 every year. But what if everyone were covered? What if everyone actually did have insurance? What if we were to take what a lot of Democrats are saying, that I want to be able to lower costs. I want you to have access to affordable health care. That sounds like insurance to me. That sounds like you're still allowing for-profit health care to be a part of this equation. And if for-profit health care is part of the equation, people are going to die. Right now, 220 to 440,000 people die every year as a result of medical errors. Medical errors. That is the third leading cause of death in the United States, right after cancers and heart disease. The third leading cause of death. This is directly the result of for-profit health care. This is directly the result of poor nursing staffing ratios, of too much care, doing things that are inherently risky because we have to, because that's what the insurance wants. If it doesn't sell its products, it doesn't make money. 220,000 as a conservative estimate on the low side, 440,000 as an estimate on the high side. So we'll couple that with the 45,000 people we know they will die because they don't even have access to that system. We'll be conservative and we'll say 300,000 people every year as a direct result of for-profit health care. 45,000 people because the insurance companies wanted so much profit that they don't want to cover everyone. Another 220,000 plus because while they are covering them, they're cutting corners. They're looking to their bottom line to discover and decide what they will and will not do. So everyone here that knows someone that wants the ACA to be shorn up, we have to be able to protect the ACA. Don't you understand? It can get so much worse. It already is worse. Can it get even worse than it is now? Yes. But if you're going to be fighting for anything, why would you fight for the crumbs? Why would you fight for the bare minimum? If you're afraid that we're going to lose because we're fighting for single payer, everyone that looks to me and says, you've got to stop doing what you're doing. You're hurting our chances. If we ask for too much, we'll lose. You don't get it at all. Not even a little bit. If we don't get single payer, it's not going to be because I was fighting for it. It'll be because you were not. While you fight for the scraps of the ACA, you might get that. But 220 to 440,000 people will still be dead. They will still be dead. You may save 45,000. Pat yourself on the back. But 220 to 440,000 will still be dead. Live with that. Fight for everything. Fight for the brass ring. Why? Because people are waking up. Are you saying you don't want to do anything with that kind of emotion? In 2016, my head exploded. Your head exploded. Everyone's head exploded. And once you stop reeling from the aftershocks of that, And you look around and you see how many people are standing up. And you want to utilize that energy for the ACA? How is that possible? How is it possible that you could be surrounded by so many people that are up and willing to fight? And you want to be able to put those people to work for the same program that was designed to allow the insurance companies to live and live longer with more profit. And still allow us to die by the hundreds of thousands every year. Do you realize at those statistics how soon it will be before it's your turn to be one of the 220,000? You, or a friend, or a loved one, a relative. You know who it's not going to be? It's not going to be the CEOs of the insurance company. It's not going to be anyone on their board of directors. We have got to start getting our heads around the idea that we are in the driver's seat. We set the agenda when we decide that that's what we're going to do. And if we decide to set the agenda with the ACA or some other ass in the hole plan just like it that allows the insurance companies to go free yet again, then we're just doing it to ourselves. We will never, ever, ever be able to look to the insurance companies or the pharmaceutical companies or the hospitals or anyone that is profiting off of our death and say, it's your fault. If we can't take this moment right now to demand single-payer health care and accept no less, then it's our fault. We have got to start taking responsibility for where we are in the country. All the violence, all the school shootings, the club shootings, the shootings. We have got to start taking responsibility for the fact that we have virtually no mental health care in this country because we don't demand it. We don't fight for it. We have got to take responsibility for all the unemployment that there is because we don't fight for a federal jobs guarantee. We accept that it's up to the private sector to give us jobs. Have you thought about how ridiculous that sounds? The private sector doesn't want to hire you. If they wanted to hire you, they would never have got machines to do so much work. They would never, ever have increased efficiencies that meant they needed fewer workers. They would never have allowed for unions to be dissolved because they want to work, they want to hire so many of you and pay you so much money. The private sector doesn't care about you. They care about you to the degree that you can turn profit for them, that you can make money for them. And if they can find a way to make more money without you, in a second, it's done. And we're supposed to look to these people to get us to actual full employment. Everyone with a full-time job if they want it, some with a part-time job if that's what they want. Why on God's green earth does that make any kind of sense? We have got to start paying attention to the economics, because it is the economics that give us the tools we need to be able to have the things that we need. We're not asking for the world. What do we want? Everyone should be able to have health care. And it should be great health care. It should be world-class health care. Why should it be any less than that? Why should we ever need to justify our existence to earn the best? It should be a rite of passage. We have it because we were born. And it should be worldwide. I'll start just with the United States and we'll work from there. That will be my compromise to you. We want safety in our own neighborhoods and in our country, in our cities, in our countryside. What does that look like? Well, no one's going to be safe if we have areas of poverty. And right now, 40 to 60% of the population is either in poverty right now or so close to it they can lick it. You tell me, when you don't know where your next meal is coming from, how well are you going to respect the laws against stealing? I don't know. If it's that or starvation. If you're about to lose everything, lose your home, already lost your job, no more car to speak of, that's gone, that's goodbye. When you're about to be homeless, how much do you respect the law right now? You know what might make that situation a little bit better? How about a living wage? How about a job that would afford you a roof over your head, food in your belly, good, clean, wholesome food, clean water, clean air, a good paying job, jobs that gave you raison d'être, reason to go on. We have so much capacity in this country, so many things we could do, but we don't do it because we are so in love with the private sector. We are so in love with market-driven solutions. You know where the market drives us if you allow it to? Straight to hell. That's where it drives the vast majority of people. It is a very narrow highway, and the rich get all the road, and everyone else gets pushed off to the side. We have infinite capacity to create dollars, and the richest resource country in the world with which to be able to spend those dollars. There is no reason why we can't have free education. Every election season, I hear these sons of bitches get up and make their speeches about how important education is. How important it is to teach the next generation. But every goddamn year after the election, where's the money? Where's the money? Well, we'll have to leave it up to the states because you guys know best how to spend money. I wouldn't want to dream of telling you all what to do with all that money. Wrong! Let me tell you the difference between a currency issuer versus a currency user. The federal government issues the dollar. They are the monopoly creator of the dollar. A state is a user of that dollar. From a practical standpoint, what does this mean in terms of how the state funds things versus the federal government? The state needs to tax you in order to get money to spend on things that it wants to spend on. It needs to borrow money if it can't tax enough to be able to spend on the things it wants to spend on. That's exactly how they phrase it for the federal government as well. But the federal government ain't like a state. The state does not issue its own currency. But the federal government does. So let's take education as an example, because we were just talking about it. Let's say that education is funded through state taxes, mostly property taxes. So whether you send your kid to school or not, you pay taxes in the form of property taxes. And even if you rent, your rent is going towards your landlord's property taxes. And those go towards paying for education. So no matter where you live, you are paying for education at the state level. Now the federal government will kick in a few bucks. But here's the thing. The federal government could kick in more bucks. They could kick in a few dollars more after that. They could kick in the whole goddamn amount. I don't think anyone is unfamiliar with the stories that we have of education all over the country. Town by town, county by county, state by state. It's a shit show. First and foremost, we've got rich towns having all manner of dollars per student being able to be spent, where we have poor towns with significantly less. We are penalizing children for being born into poverty. By virtue of the lottery of your birth is going to help determine the rest of your life. And if we're always talking about how we are Americans, we're exceptionals, if you work hard, you can achieve anything. Well, how is that possible when right from the very first moments of your birth, the access to health care, prenatal care, is determined by the wealth of your parents, by the nutritional guides that your parents are able to follow. People taking their kids to McDonald's at an early age because it's all they can afford. 4 for $4 at Wendy's. That will keep your belly from growling, but it's not feeding your mind. It's not feeding you with nutrients. Because the parents don't have much of a choice. And if you go into a lot of these neighborhoods, it's a food desert in terms of nutrition. But there will be a Papa John's and a Pizza Hut and a McDonald's and a Wendy's on every goddamn corner. And don't even get me started on the 7-Elevens everywhere. So we won't let you starve quickly. We'll just let you starve over the course of decades. And we'll be able to make sure that you don't grow up healthy, mentally aware, acute, stunted as much as possible, because they will then send you to a school that does not allow you to actually learn. They're not interested in allowing you to learn. There's not enough dollars being spent. There's not enough resources. There's not enough teachers. There's not enough school counselors. This is not by accident. But this is the way we have set up education in this country. We pay for it through our property taxes, so property tax rich towns get a lot of money. Property rich poor towns, not so much. You're on your own. But you're supposed to be able to work hard and get ahead. With a shitty-ass education, with a horrible diet, you're supposed to be able to get ahead. How? It's a market-based economy. Free market. We're supposed to be able to believe in the ideas. Well, it's a shitty idea to penalize people from birth. It's a shitty idea to funnel all the riches we have to fewer and fewer people. And it doesn't have to be that way. We could fund education directly, 100% from the federal government. You still get to run your curriculum. You still get to be able to do what you want to do. The federal government may put some guidelines to make sure that people get an education. How about we make sure that if you're not really academically inclined, that you get to go to vocational school, that you get to go to art school. You may be a phenomenal musician. Go be a musician. You're not really academically inclined, go do that. But what's one of the first things that get cut in every school program everywhere? The music department, the theater department, all the literature, all the arts and like that. Sorry, train of thought lost. Those all get cut. Just like that. Like they don't mean anything. Like no one ever found value in drama. No one ever found value in music. No one ever learned math better because they were able to put their brain to some alternate use. So let's take the burden off the states. The states cannot raise the revenue sufficient to be able to do everything that they need to do. So leave it up to the federal government. Federal government issues all the currency anyway. So issue the currency needed to be able to get this done. Issue the currency needed to get single-payer health care done. We want to be able to live on a planet in an environment that will survive, that will be able to have our children grow up, that will be able to have our grandchildren grow up. So let's have an end to fossil fuels. An end to it. Let's have 100% green energy. And since the private sector doesn't want to do that, We, the people of the United States of America, we are the government. We can decide. I want to be able to deal with climate change head on. We don't have time to pussyfoot around with it. I want to be able to have 100% green energy right now. We have the tools. We have the talent. We're going to get it done. We're going to totally revitalize the grid in this country. And we're going to fund everything. We don't care how much it costs. We only care that it can be done. And if you want to be able to say, well, we're not going to be, telling the fossil fuel company that they're outlawed. We're not going to tell them they have to. No, we don't have to do that. We can do that if we want, but we don't have to. All we have to do is make sure they don't get another dime of federal money. You will get absolutely, positively not one dime of federal money. Natural cause and effect. You cut off their funding, and then you fund their competitors. Yes, we will be picking winners and losers, folks, the same way we do right now. Wall Street wins. Military-industrial complex wins. You, me, everyone else. No one else wins. So when they say that the government should not be in the business of picking winners and losers, you tell them straight to their face, Geoff says, fuck you. Every time the government gives out a subsidy, they're deciding who wins and who loses. So let's own that. Let's be honest about that. And let's do something about that. So we can pay their competitors, the fossil fuel industry's competitors, for wind, for solar, for geothermal, for all manner of renewable green energy. And we will pay them sufficient to get the job done such that now everyone's energy is now 100% deliverable with green energy. We can do this. How much time do you think we have to get it done? I don't think we have that much time at all. But who am I? I'm just someone who reads all manner of articles from scientists after scientists after scientists after scientists who says, we don't have any time left. We told you 30 years ago. We told you 20 years ago. We told you 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, yesterday. And you're still not paying attention. At this rate, I don't know that we will be able to tell you in 10 years. It's a whole new ballgame right now. But yeah, it's just life on Earth. Don't worry about it. We get to decide. It's very important that we understand the macroeconomics. Because every time someone says, I would love there to be single payer, I think it's the way to go. I just don't know that it's ever going to happen. We're going to, someone's going to have to pay for it. The rich don't want to pay for it. How are we going to get them to pay for it? Whoa. You really don't get it. If the reason you're not fighting for single payer is because you think someone's going to have to pay for it and no one's going to want to cough up the money, if things actually worked that way, you're absolutely right. This is the problem with single payer on the state level. The state only has so much money. People will still die if you do single payer health care with the state. California gets single payer health care, people will still die. They do it in New York, people will still die. They didn't even have the option of doing it in Vermont. They had to abandon it because they couldn't come up with the funds sufficient to cover everyone with anything approximating a reasonable plan, but people still would have died if they had. Point is that insurance companies will allow you to die because they want to keep all the money that they have, as much of it as they absolutely positively can. The states will, and I'll put this as politely as I can, as nicely as I can, they will reluctantly allow people to die because they only have so much money to start with. There's only so much money to be able to get the job done. And if they can't raise enough to be able to get it done, they will have to start cutting corners. They will have to start making decisions. This is going to get covered, that's not. This medication, yes, that one, no. As soon as they start making these decisions, As the insurance company does right now for profit, the state will make them for frugality because they can't afford to do everything. So people will still die. The federal government that doesn't need revenue, that does not need to ever have a profit, can, if it chooses, and this is why it matters who goes, they can, if they choose, fund it to the point where everything is covered. Don't have to explain it to me, Mr. Doctor. You think it's for the best, we will pay it. Now that won't actually do anything about how much healthcare costs. But this is the point. In the short term, it doesn't matter how much it costs. Are the insurance companies getting away with, are the pharmaceutical companies getting away with murder for charging as much as they do? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Are the medical manufacturing companies getting away with the same thing? You goddamn right they are. Are the hospitals that are supposed to be not-for-profit but are actually more profitable than most corporations, are they getting away with something? You damn right they are. In the short term, we don't need to do a goddamn thing about any of that before we start saving lives. Because every second, every minute, every day that we delay until we get the perfect storm, we finally got a plan that will bring the pharmaceutical companies to heel and the medical manufacturing and everyone to heel. Everyone's going to just charge whatever we will pay for. And everyone gets covered. If we wait to do that, people will still die. In the short term, you simply put out the fire. When a house is burning, you negotiate nothing. The goal is to put the fire out. Afterwards, after the fire is out, there can be an investigation. Why did it happen? How could we have stopped that? How could we have avoided it? Cover everyone now. With the only insurance plan that will actually be able to cover whatever the cost, and they don't care how much it costs. They only care that it's going to be effective. After that is done, after every man, woman, and child that walks the earth in this country can know they can go to a doctor anytime, anywhere, can have any procedure covered no matter what, can have all their medications covered for free, no out-of-pocket deductibles, no nothing that will get between you and your doctor. Once that happens, then the federal government can come in and say, now, ladies and gentlemen, you've been having it really good for a really long time. And I'm here to tell you that you're going to continue to have it pretty damn good. But the unlimited buffet is now over. You only have to look at the history of how things got so bad to realize that it was not about cost. It was about greed. When they say that competition, would make things better, no, it never makes things better. Competition does not make things better in healthcare. As soon as one corporation charges a little bit more for something, everyone else does not go around and go, whoa, we can make so much more because now we can compete with them. We can do it for less. No, they all just jack up their rates too. They never look to their competitors raising prices and saying, how could you do that? They look to their competitors raising their prices and go, how did you do that? They're looking to make as much money as they possibly can. So once the bills are paid from the federal government will set the price, just like they do right now with Medicare. We will tell you how much this is going to cost. Now, that could be dictatorial or it could be collaborative. We can have all of you at the table. You're all getting paid, but let's have a real discussion about how much you should be paid. Because it's just disgusting. But that conversation should have nothing to do with the conversation about whether or not we save everyone now. Just the same as The insurance companies going out of business should not be the driver for what happens now. Right now, we could have a whole lot more unemployment because the insurance companies will no longer be in the business of healthcare. Maybe we can help them retool to do other things. Maybe a lot of them can be folded back into the Medicare system. Who knows? But I'm sure a lot of them are going to be unemployed. And I have all kinds of sympathy for that. But let's do the cost risk benefit analysis here. On the one hand, we've got some unemployment. Okay, that's not good. But on the other hand, if we make sure they have a job, we've got 300,000 people dead. Suddenly, this is a much bigger problem. Actually, I think I did it the other way around. If you're talking about scales, my apologies. The point is that 300,000 people dying trumps any argument over the morality of the insurance companies and whether or not we should wait to come up with a solution to make sure they can simply move into another job. If they have to be unemployed, so be it. We could deal with unemployment. We do it all the time. But first things first, 300,000 people are going to be dead just so these people can keep a job. A job that can be replaced. A job that which we can make sure that is not going to demoralize them. We could just simply throw some money at them if we want. Or we could, I don't know, have a federal jobs guarantee. There's all manner of things we can do to deal with unemployment. There is absolutely nothing we can do to bring back 300,000 people from the dead. Not a goddamn thing. You're dead, you're gone. That's it. You're unemployed? We could do something about that. Dead? Oops. Sorry about that. Times 300,000. So something has to be done. And they won't do it. The insurance companies won't do it. The politicians won't do it. There's a lot of progressives that lost their races. Peter Jacob in New Jersey 7th. Jim Keedy in New Jersey 4th. Jim Jaffe, going up against Nancy Pelosi. There's tons of people that did win. But we're going to have to get serious. Do you want single payer? Do you want a federal job guarantee? Do you want free college tuition? Do you want 100% green energy? Do you want to be able to breathe air and drink water 10 years from now? Do you want your kids to be able to grow up without horrific diseases? You've got to make a decision now, not later. Later is too late. You have to do it now. Do you want to address the cost of poverty of for-profit prisons? Do you want reparations for African Americans and for Native Americans? Do you want there to be peace and justice in this country like there has never been before? We do not want to make America great again. I'm sorry to tell you, it never was. It was great on paper. It had possibilities that it never lived up to. Just because a small handful of people got really rich doesn't mean that that made it a great country. Just because we were able to make food cheap and make it totally, completely devoid of any nutritional value, I do not see the cultural value of having a McDonald's and a Wendy's on every corner. That is not making America great. The great American hamburger. Fuck that. Welcome to diabetes and obesity and cancer in America. But we can make America great. It just won't ever be great again, because that implies that it was great once. And if it was great for you, mazel tov, fantastic. There were millions that did not share in your fortune. How is that great? To say that America should be the land where you pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, that you should have personal responsibility and you're the only one responsible for your success or failure. Jesus Christ. The Wild West was not a fun time or fun place for most people. every man, woman, and child for himself is not a civilized society, even if that works great for some people. To say that only the private sector is innovative enough to be in charge completely misses the overall point. Anything and anyone can be great given the proper circumstances. That includes government. If you send shit into government, you'll get shit. So send people that will actually care about you, about your communities. Show these people that think government is an abomination. People like Grover Norquist, who says, I don't want to kill government. I just want to shrink it to the size where it could be easily drowned in a bathtub. Show them that government is what you make it. And if you send wonderful people that want to be able to serve the people, serve all the people, not just the rich, but everyone, then we will get what we deserve. But I promise you this, if we don't, we still get what we deserve. It is on us, completely and totally on us. No one is coming to save us except us. I urge you to put aside party, to put aside hero worship of candidates, individual. No one is going to agree with you 100%, but you have got to start following policies. Is this person going to fight for the policy that will save you and your family and your community? And if they're not, then why would you vote for them? Why in God's green earth would you vote for someone who is not going to stand with you in the fire and say, we will not tolerate this anymore? The ultra wealthy have had their shot, and they can still be allowed to do really well. They just can't be allowed to do so well that they squeeze out everyone else. Everyone that says that the private sector has to be unshackled and untethered, and the private sector is going to squeeze out investment. I can't stand that shit, because that exact thinking to make sure that the private sector is not squeezed out, well, I'm sorry, the private sector is squeezing me. It's squeezing my family. It's squeezing my communities and all over this country. If 40 to 60% of the country are already in poverty or so close to it, how is that something to admire? How do we look at those statistics and say that that system is working for us? It's not. It doesn't want to, and we need to recognize that. It doesn't want to. So stop playing their game. We have got to make decisions. Are you in or are you out? If you're out, I respect it. But if you're in, you've got to fight for it. No one is going to give it to you. You have got to fight for it. You've got to make sure that you fight for yourself, for your family, for your friends, for people you've never met before. And you've got to have faith that they will fight for you as well. Are you in or are you out? I'll be back next week. Savage Joy is up next. I love you guys. Keep fighting. Keep fighting for each other. It's so much better than just fighting for yourself. You fight for someone else. You fight for more than someone else. You fight for your communities. Because if you just fight for yourself, you might succeed. But not likely for everyone else. But if you fight for everyone else, that includes you. That includes everyone. So do that. Love will win, but only if you choose it. You have to make it a conscious choice. And if you do, the world will be a much better place. I love you guys. I'll be back next week. Have a great week. Bye-bye.